gust of wind, I know.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle, and today we are on the Washington Mall, right beside the Washington Monument. Got a new friend for you to meet, a park ranger, Jennifer Epstein. Jennifer, what's up with this cold?
Yeah, I think fall is here.
Fall is here. This is almost winter to me.
And it's always a little breezier on our hill here at the Washington Monument. Always get a little bit more of a breeze.
That's a great science
watch
tip.
The flags. Watch the flags blowing.
Excellent.
There you go.
So that's a little bit of science there for you, but today we're here to talk a little bit about history too. So Jen, tell us why are you here?
Yeah, we get that a lot. People are really surprised. They expect to see park rangers in the woods or in the forest. They don't expect to see park rangers in the middle of a big city like Washington, D.C. But yeah, we became a national park a long time ago. Actually around the time of Franklin Roosevelt's officially. Okay. We become part of the Park Service in the 1930s. But we have so many amazing resources that we're very fortunate to share with the public. I've been here a long time and get to talk about all kinds of history, and that's what makes this place so fun, that there's so many different topics we can talk about.
Well, that's great. Well, today we're just going to take a walk around the mall and look at some monuments and talk history. Now, she said Franklin. So Jen, now we are on the west side of the Washington Monument, and I noticed this stone here. So can you tell us a little bit about what this is and what it represents?
Sure. No, this is a really interesting piece on the National Mall that so many people walk by and never notice. We are just south of the White House, and in the early days of the city, the plan was for the Washington Monument, which was talked about from the days of George Washington still being alive even, was to have it line up with the White House and the Capitol building, which is just due east of us. And this is kind of that spot where those two lines would intersect. Look at me getting geometry in here. How about that?
Look at that, math teachers. See math happens at
There's all kinds of stuff you can do on the National Mall. Anyway, this was going to cause a little bit of a problem because the Potomac River, which today is way down behind the Lincoln Memorial, a ways down from us, used to come this far up.
Oh, wow.
And so it marks the spot where the river used to be, and also explains a little bit about why it would have been hard to build the Washington Monument right in this location, because this would not have been strong ground because it was so wet.
Absolutely. This is wonderful. Now, my eye's not going to read it, but it does say the position.
It's known as the Jefferson Pier stone, position of Jefferson Pier, erected in, I think, I should have looked at that first.
1859.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take your word for
my eyes are better than yours right now.
There you go.
Yeah, so thanks. That's really great news. And look at the little science you got in there.
I know. People are going to not believe that because I'm known as a history geek and not a science person. But you can do anything on the mall. You
can, and you told me that someone inspired you to do this job. Let's give a shout out.
Oh, my 5th grade teacher back in Connecticut when I was a youngster. And I tell this story a lot to students and to teachers that I had really no interest in history until 5th grade when my eyes were open to a whole new world and I just really got into it. And I just totally credit my 5th grade teacher with opening that up to me and making me want to do something with history. I always tell people too, I came to Washington, D.C. from Connecticut with my grandparents when I was probably in 6th or 7th grade, and stayed at a hotel just across the river that I pass when I go to lunch now.
Nice.
And it always reminds me of my grandparents and just what a great time this place, what a great area this is. And to be here, sometimes have to kind of pinch myself and be like, wow, how did I end up here, being in the middle of this park and being able to tell all these stories, and particularly if I can be that influence in a kid today when I have all these kids out on the mall doing programs or taking them on field trips or something like that, I think of the influence that one teacher had on me, and that kind of inspires me to keep going.
Teachers, you hear that. You are very influential in the lives of our students, and students, make sure you thank a teacher today for all that they do for you. They may not be bringing you here right now, but because of their interest in this challenge, they are bringing you here as we meet Jen. Jen, let's kind take off and do some more.
Cool, let's go. There's lots to see.
So looking at this beautiful Washington Monument, we know that it's 555 feet tall and has 896 steps in it. We also noticed, though, it's closed right now. They're doing some work on the elevator system, I think you said,
Yep.
Jen?
Yeah, new elevator post-earthquake that happened here back in 2011. And a new security structure is being added around the other side, too.
Okay. Well, I noticed, with all the beautiful colors around here and all the beautiful architecture, that this has two different shades of brown.
Yeah, it's a great story about the building of this monument. It was started completely on donations, and the folks, when they had their design competition, the Washington National Monument Society chose a design that was going to cost in the neighborhood of $1 million back in the 1840s.
Oh, wow.
And so they knew they were going to need a lot of money, and they didn't have it when they started, but they decided to build anyway, figuring that people would donate more money, and it didn't quite happen. So that line, about a third of the way up, represents where the work stopped back in the 1850s and how it would sit there for quite some time. It was almost 25 years later when they go back to work, and they have to go to a neighboring quarry to get rock, which is a slightly different color. It's all marble, but slightly different color. So if you see photographs, if you're studying the Civil War in Washington, D.C., you see the half-finished monument during that time. And, this area that we're standing on was drilling ground for soldiers during the Civil War. And so a lot of things going on here. And this monument would have been about 150 feet tall.
Okay. And also, just for the kids that are thinking about erosion and weathering, this thing's set for 25 years with this type of stone, and it's had a little bit more exposure to the elements. And then with the rest of it going up. Have you walked the steps?
I have, yes. Only once up when something happened to the elevator, but I've done many times down. We used to do tours walking down the steps, and there's an amazing collection of stones on the inside walls that were donated during a lot of the time when they weren't doing work. They asked for donations, and so they donated stones. So each of the 50 states has a stone that they donated on the inside walls. So we're standing here, we've got this whole collection of stones on the inside walls that you just don't get to see. But they all are online, so you could look them up, find them online.
Beautiful story.
And some.
Looking back at the years gone by like so many summer fields.
The World War II memorial, and this was actually built when George W. Bush was president of the U.S. But there's an engineering thing going on here. I heard there was a little controversy maybe, and they had to really use their engineering mind to build this. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I never thought of it as engineering before, but you're opening all new kind of avenues for me here. Yeah, the big issue here when this was being built was there was great concern that the placement of this memorial here was going to ruin the view between the Washington Monument, which is in front of us, and the Lincoln Memorial. This is a pretty historic vista, and there was great concern that putting a memorial here was going to kind of ruin that view. And what they came up with was to make it so that you walk down into it, and the larger features are off to the side. So your view shed is pretty well intact, and yet you still have all the components of this memorial that show really the big theme here, the unity, the country coming together in a time of war and working together.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
So, what are you in charge of here? Let's name them off. Now, I'm not going to make you name them in alphabetical order.
Thank you.
But give me something. I think there's
Okay.
8.
So we call them our 8 icon sites, yes. Out here on the mall, we have the Washington Monument, the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the World War II, the Martin Luther King, the Franklin Roosevelt, the Korean War Veterans Memorial, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
And your favorite, if you can say that, or one that you really have been invested in the history behind?
Well, I can talk at any of them. I find that the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Memorial is a really fun one to talk at. because there's a lot of art features there that make it really interesting to talk about. And he's just a story I enjoy talking about too. I mean, he's a really interesting figure during a really interesting time period, and I guess you're not supposed to have favorites, but I enjoy that one.
That's okay. Plus, there's a dog.
And there's a dog, and there's, all kinds of stories about him, yeah.
Now,
Great
do you
stuff.
keep metrics on which one has the most visitors or touch points?
So there are statistics kept. I'm pretty sure the Lincoln is usually the most visited of our sites here, yeah.
And we know that a lot of these places are used in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about how Nicolas Cage actually sat on those steps for the filming of the first National Treasure. National Treasure, for most of you guys, was filmed way before you were born. But watch it. It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
I mean, it's fake stuff too, but it's good stuff.
Don't look for anything on the back of the Declaration, though.
There's nothing back there, and you could be arrested. Right? Jen.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure, this is great.
Except for the weather, I'm a little cold, but I guess I'd rather be cold than really hot.
It's a pretty day.
Very pretty. The hair, I just can't even go there. You had a hat. Very jealous of the hat.
Yeah.
I do have a pin.
I love it.
That I got, but working towards the hat. Jen, thank you. Now,
Sure.
we want these kids to connect with you. So we'll run some taglines down at the bottom of where they can find you. But do you
Sure.
want them to contact you?
Sure, we're always excited to reach out to students. We're learning some technology. We're trying to reach out and connect with folks across the country. So yeah, feel free.
Plus, she has a cell phone.
Yeah, I've been known to maybe Skype a little.
Yeah, maybe a little FaceTime.
I maybe forget sometimes when I'm walking down the Lincoln Steps and I bump along and
So
make people sick, but
we
I'll
will
work
ask
on
you
that.
to take some nausea medicine, but this has been great. This is
Yeah.
all part of our National Parks Expedition Challenge. We're excited to have you join us. We're at 770 plus schools across North America. This is one you're going to want to check out. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Dr. Drizzle out.